In the Conduit sink taxonomy, sinks are terminal destinations, jurisdictions where foreign capital accumulates and effectively leaves the taxable base. The question that Corpson's researchers set out to answer was deceptively simple. How does a US company's money actually get from California to Bermuda? The answer was never a single hub. It runs through a conduit and a conduit that is paired to a particular sink. Understanding that sink and the pairing completes the picture that the first video began. A sink is defined by what a conduit is not. Where a conduit sells respectability, treaty access, and legal sophistication, a sink sells the terminal outcome. The defining constraint is the treaty network, or rather, its absence, precisely because sinks are known for near zero taxation. Other countries are wary of signing broad tax treaties with them. And a treaty is what lets the cross-border payments flow without withholding tax. Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel and welcome back to the Capital Insight series. This series sits within our Fundamentals Through the Noise series here at Punjab Capital Research. And today let's continue with our Routing the Profit series. Today we're going to talk about where the money actually rests, the sink OFCs and the conduit pairings. Now if the conduit is the respectable front door, the sink is the room where the profit finally comes to rest. This video and this note reads the sink jurisdictions and the conduit sink pairings that complete the structure and the pressures now repricing them. This is about following the money to where it stops. In our first video in the series, we traced how corporate profits are routed. This one follows us to where it comes to rest. In the conduit sink taxonomy, sinks are terminal destinations, jurisdictions where foreign capital accumulates and effectively leaves the taxable base. The question that Corpson's researchers set out to answer was deceptively simple. How does a US company's money actually get from California to Bermuda? The answer was never a single hub. It runs through a conduit and a conduit that is paired to a particular sink. Understanding that sink and the pairing completes the picture that the first video began. Let's start with what really defines the sink: zero rate, thin treaties, and the need for a partner. A sink is defined by what a conduit is not. Where a conduit sells respectability, treaty access, and legal sophistication, a sink sells the terminal outcome: a near zero or zero effective rate and historically opacity. Its empirical signature is an offshore intensity ratio, foreign capital, and corporate registrations widely out of proportion to the size of the domestic economy. The CorpNet analysis identified 24 such sinks. The defining constraint is the treaty network, or rather, its absence, precisely because sinks are known for near zero taxation. Other countries are wary of signing broad tax treaties with them. And a treaty is what lets the cross-border payments flow without withholding tax. That thin treaty access is the structural reason sinks cannot operate alone. A company usually cannot move untaxed profit directly from a high-tax market into Bermuda without triggering withholding tax. It needs an intermediary that holds the treaties. That intermediary is the conduit. Sinks are not uniform. At one end sits pure sinks, the British Virgin Islands, Bermuda, and the Cayman Islands. Historically zero tax, secrecy-oriented, with limited real activity. At the other end sit jurisdictions that behave partly like conduits themselves. Luxembourg and Hong Kong carry low effective rates and sink-like retention, but also sophisticated legal regimes, some treaty access, and genuine financial sector substance. These are both closer to traditional havens than the EU and OECD standing suggests. Next, let's try and understand as to why do pairs exist. The pairing is more a division of labor. Neither half alone can both extract untaxed profit from a high-tax market and let it come to rest. The conduit supplies the front end, the treaty network that moves the payment out of source country without withholding tax, the tooling, that is intra-group IP charging, hybrid instruments that characterize the payments as deductible, and reputational cover of an OECD-compliant address. The sink supplies the backend, the near-zero terminal rate, and the retention. The data shows that these links are tight as well as stable: Switzerland to Jersey, Ireland to Luxembourg, Singapore to Hong Kong, and Taiwan. The back door is not the metaphor. It is the second leg of a two-leg journey. Let's talk in detail about the 5 routes and their mechanisms, starting with Ireland to Luxembourg. Luxembourg is the historic backdoor out of Irish corporate system. Its participation exemption regime lets the holding company receive dividends and capital gains from subsidiaries free of the Luxembourg tax. So when we are talking about Netherlands to Bermuda, the Dutch sandwich is the mechanism out here. A group routed royalty payments out of EU operating company through a Dutch conduit entity, the slice in the sandwich, and onward to a zero tax terminal such as Bermuda. The Dutch step existed because the Netherlands historically levied no withholding tax on outbound royalties and interest and permitted such payments to reach offshore havens, avoiding the EU withholding taxes. Herein, the Google structure combined with the double Irish is the best documented example out here. So when we are talking about Switzerland to Jersey, Switzerland's cantonal competition and its form of holdings and mixed company privileges made it a long-established corporate center, tightly linked in the data to Jersey. A classic crown dependency sink with zero corporate tax and a large fund and special purpose vehicle industry. So when we are talking about Singapore to Hong Kong and Taiwan, the Asian axis mirrors the European one. Singapore's treaty network and territorial style taxation route the regional profit towards Hong Kong, itself low tax and territorial, and Taiwan, which has been identified as a significant and previously unmarked sink. Finally, coming to United Kingdom's two various dependencies, the UK case is less a single pairing than an integrated system. 18 of the 24 sink jurisdictions are current or former UK territories or crown dependencies. The city functions as a conduit, the dependency network functions as a family of sinks. And this is why UK sits simultaneously amongst the largest conduits and at the head of the largest sink cluster. Let's also talk about the Caribbean triad out here. 3 sinks, 3 specializations. The 3 classic sinks, Bermuda, British Virgin Islands, and Cayman Islands, are often grouped together but specialized differently. Bermuda is a reinsurance center host to a large share of global catastrophe and life reinsurance market. The Cayman Islands is the fund domicile center, the default jurisdiction for hedge funds and private equity vehicles, priced for a flexible, creditor-friendly legal system rather than secrecy alone. The British Virgin Islands is the company formation center, home to a vast number of incorporated vehicles used as holding and special purpose entities. All 3 historically levied no corporate income tax. What they sold was not only the rate, but the legal plumbing also: speed of incorporation, contractual flexibility, and an established body of common law. And this finally brings us to the fundamentals to the noise section of this video. The sinks that are being repriced. Now, the sink model is being repriced rather than dismantled along 3 vectors. The first is substance. Economic substance legislation introduced across the Caribbean triad from 2019 under EU and OECD pressure requires entities carrying on relevant activities to demonstrate genuine local presence, staff, premises, decision-making. This raised the cost of empty shell structure and pushed some activity towards jurisdictions where real operations already exist. The second is the minimum tax reaching the sink itself. The clearest breakout here is Bermuda, which enacted a 15% corporate income tax effective from 1st of January 2025. This is for multinational groups with €750 million or more in revenue. This is a direct response to Pillar 2 design so that the tax is collected in Bermuda rather than topped up elsewhere. The Cayman Islands, by contrast, has signaled no intention to adopt a corporate income tax. That divergence matters out here because the sinks are splitting between those that adopt the floor to keep the revenue at home and those that hold out, betting that their non-tax advantages, funds, incorporation, legal certainty survive without the rate. Finally, the third is the choke points and specific routes. The Netherlands conditional withholding tax applied since 2021 and extended to dividends from 2024 levies 25.8% on interest, royalty, and dividend payments to low tax and blacklisted jurisdictions. Precisely the flows that the Dutch sandwich relied on, substantially closing the classic Netherlands to Bermuda royalty route. The European Union and the national blacklist now name most pure sinks explicitly, attaching withholding penalties and reputational costs to the routes that once ran freely. So in wrap-up, we can say that the net effect is repricing. The pure secrecy zero substance sink is the most exposed, while the sink that offers genuine infrastructure, for example Cayman funds, Bermuda reinsurance, Luxembourg holdings, is more durable because its value was never only in the rate. The watch items out here are also concrete. Which additional sinks adopt domestic top-up taxes over the next filing cycles? Whether the economic substance regimes are enforced or remain nominal, and how the January 2026 US carve-out interacts with sync jurisdictions hosting US parented structures. The room where the money rests is still there. What it costs to get in and to stay is definitely changing. Now, that's all that we wanted to share with you on this edition of Capital Insights and Routing the Profits. Stay tuned in for the next edition.